These are the new metal releases for January 31st, 2025. I have a wide variety of genres this time. I have everything from death metal to melodic death metal to AOR and hard rock. So I have a nice mix of bands, so let me not waste any more time. Let me get right into it. First band I have is Night Flight Orchestra with Give Us the Moon. They're from Sweden. They're on Nuclear Blast Records, formed in 2007. They play hard rock, AOR, and melodic rock, and this is their 7th album. So this band plays a lot of that hard rock music that's similar to that early 80s album rock or radio rock, Survivor, Journey, Genesis in the 80s, like that type of music. There's a little bit of a hard rock sound, which is, I guess, why they're considered metal. I found them on the Metal Storm website, which is why I'm covering them. But this is super catchy music. The chorus is stick in your head. It's very fun. There are a lot of songs such as Shooting Velvet, which was one of the more heavier ones, which sounded like folk metal, but it has lots of keyboard sounds. But there was the song Stratus, which sounds like 80s Genesis. There was a song Miraculous, which reminded me of the band ABBA, but with harder rock guitars. There was a song Cosmic Tide, which had this really cool rock drum intro, another one of the harder rockers. But it's a very fun album, super catchy. I enjoy it a lot. I think this is one I'm going to be listening to a lot. It's just super fun to listen to, and that's all I have to say about it. Check it out if you like this type of thing. Next is the band Confess with Destination Addiction. This is a groove metal, nu metal, and thrash metal album. Originally from Iran, but currently in Norway, and I'll explain that in a minute. They're on Rexis Records, and this is their 4th album. So basically, the band was started by 2 guys from Iran, and they released 2 albums. And they got in trouble with their country because they were charged with blasphemy for writing satanic music and speaking to foreign radio stations. And then they released a couple albums. For example, their 2nd album was called In Pursuit of Dreams, and they had some song titles which were against God, and that's considered blasphemous by the Iranian government. So they were arrested. I think they were held in solitary confinement for a couple of months, and they applied for asylum in Norway, and their petition was granted. So they're currently in Norway. They're safe from Iran. And back in 2019, the Iranian government gave them a sentence of like 141 years in prison, and one of them got sentenced to 74 lashes, which I didn't even know that was still a thing. That still happens, but apparently it is. But these guys are fine, and they have a new album out, and it's pretty cool. It's kind of a throwback sound, a lot of that heavy nu metal, but the more extreme nu metal. I'm talking like Slipknot, Iowa, that type of music. Some of it reminded me of Korn, but there's some good stuff here. I like the track Slaughterhouse. This one had some fast and heavy death metal style riffs and some chunky groove metal riffs. And also the vocals are very death metal style, like those low guttural vocals. So if you like that type of thing. I like the song After Goliath. That's more nu metal, like Slipknot. It had some turntable scratches as well, but they're more in the background. So definitely a really good album to check out. This one is kind of unique. They're bringing back the nu metal, but they're doing it really good. The next band I have is called the Hellacopters with Overdriver. They are a hard rock and sleaze rock band, also from Sweden, on Nuclear Blast Records. They formed in 1994, but they took this break from 2018 to 2016, and this is their 9th album. This is like garage rock, the Stooges, 60s rock and roll, blues rock. That's what I got from it, but they changed their sound throughout the songs. So a lot of songs are different. So for example, track number 4, Wrong Face On, that's more like garage rock, or like the Strokes, like that garage rock revival. But then there were other songs that were like a little darker or harder rocking, like track 5, Soldier On, which sounded like some early Blue Oyster Cult. And there were other songs that were like a little different, a little more indie rock, like Do You Feel Normal, which had those jangly guitars, which reminded me of early REM. So this is not really metal. Some of it's like 80s glam, but it's hard rock. If you like classic rock, that type of music. Definitely another band. Apparently they've been around for a while. This is my first time listening to them. But I think it's a pretty cool band, and if you like that type of music, definitely check it out. Here's another one I recommend. The next band is WarWolf with The Final Battle, and they're a heavy metal and power metal band. They were formed in 1994, and they had a different name called Wolfen. So this WarWolf band is the second incarnation of this, which was formed in 2021. This is their third album, and they're from Germany on the Metalopolis Records label. So this is a lot of Iron Maiden worship. They sound a lot like Maiden, not so much as the vocals. It's not like they're trying to be like Bruce Dickinson, as like other bands like Stray Gods sound like a lot like Maiden. They sound very influenced by Iron Maiden. We have some pretty cool songs. Burning Skies, this is like a classic heavy metal, new wave of British heavy metal sound. One song, The Lycan Empire, very similar to Iron Maiden's Wasted Years. This is probably the most Maiden-esque sounding song. They have a song, A New Hope, with fast-paced rhythms. This is more like 80s Iron Maiden, or even Saxon, that type of thing. This is also a concept album, I believe. It's like Star Wars, but with werewolves in like outer space, in this frozen planet, or something along those lines. I didn't read all the lyrics, but I was reading some of the lyrics in some of the songs, so that's kind of what I got from it. It's super cheesy, but another fun album. If you like that classic Maiden, they play a lot of homage to that band, and definitely check it out. Next band I have is Maceration with Serpent, Devourment. This is a death metal band, and they're from Denmark. They're unsigned, formed in 1989, but they broke up in 1996, got back together in 2020, and this is their third album. So it's a lot of old school death metal, lots of double bass drumming, old school death metal riffs, lots of fast-paced death metal with blast beats and those tremolo pick guitar riffs. There are times they slow it down, but it's a type of band where if they slow it down, they're going to speed it up in a few seconds. Like, they change their tempos a lot. It's just very sick and vile vocals, intense blast beats. That's pretty much what you're going to get. So I like some of the slower ones, like When Torment Befell My Pain, track 7. That was more mid-paced death metal with more of those melodic leads. And then if you like that old school, just heavy in your face, you have some good songs like In Rot Unleashed, which had the heavy riffs, double bass drumming, and just that almost like a simple death metal, not like super complex. It's not tech death. But then there are other songs that were a little more technical, like Revolt, The Tyrant Dream. So if you like death metal, definitely check this band out. I think this is the type of band you can get into. Next band is called Shrieking Demons, and they are the Festering Dwellers. Another death metal band, but they're from Italy, and they're new, formed in 2021. This is their debut album. So similar to the band I just spoke about, but there are some differences, whereas I think this band has a tendency to get a little slower. Like when they play fast, they're playing fast. When they're playing slow, they're playing slow. A lot of this sounds a lot more like Obituary, and there's also like a little more variety on this album. It's not just straightforward death metal. They have a tendency to do some other stuff. So for example, track 3, Sorrowful Dismal Bliss, has some pretty cool guitar effects, and other great songs like Perennial Dirge is more like mid-paced death metal with these chunkier guitar riffs, something along the lines of Obituary. There's an instrumental called Garden of the Headless Dead, which just 2 minutes, but it reminded me of something that Randy Rhoads would play on an Ozzy album, like that type of music. And I like some of the songs on the second half of the album, such as track 8, Comprised Brain, which reminded me of the band Death from the Sound of Perseverance album. That type of music, a lot of that melody, and some of it has like a groovy sound, some of it's heavy chugging. So it's a little bit, I would say it's a little bit more like Death with their later albums, as opposed to the other band, which was just more old school death metal. This is more like Obituary, a little bit more accessible. I would say I probably like this one better than the one before that I just spoke about, but it's just my personal preference. But there's 2 different types of death metal bands, so definitely another one to check out. Next is Burn Down Eden with Dismal Epiphany. This is melodic death metal from Germany. Seek and Strike label, formed in 2014. This is their 4th album. So this is melodic death metal. It has a very classic, In Flames, Gothenburg melodic death metal style. It's melodic death metal on the heavier side, so it's more borderline like standard death metal. It's just very heavy, very fast-paced, but there are lots of good songs. For example, one song, Blood Splattered Symphony, has this classical music influence in the guitar riffs. I like that one. I like track number 5 called The War Within. Has these really fast-paced drums, the blast beats, the melodic guitar riffs. The band is also a little bit political as well. They have one song called Fake News for Breakfast. And just the lyrics are pretty fun, but it's typical death metal. Lots of those fast-paced drums, lots of death growls. They don't have any cleans on this album. I don't believe there were. I don't remember hearing any, but it's a lot of that Gothenburg melodic death metal sound, so definitely check it out. One more band called Blackslash, Heroes, Saints, and Fools. They are a heavy metal band from Germany on the Iron Shield Records, formed in 2007. This is their 5th album. So this is another band that has that Iron Maiden influence, but they're not exactly copying them. There are just some songs that have that influence, but other stuff sounds more like 80s hard rock. Some of it sounds like Dokken. So for example, we have the opening track, Heroes, Saints, and Fools. This has melodic guitar riffs, kind of a cheesy opening spoken word part. A little bit on the power metal side on this one. Then there's track 4, Black Widow, which reminded me of that early 80s heavy metal, like early Dokken. Then there was track 5, Life After Death, which sounded like that later day Striper. They kind of had that same guitar tone, but lots of melody in the guitars, and the vocals have those big heavy metal style vocals. But then there's a song, track 6, The Watcher. This one sounded a lot like Iron Maiden. And if you know those Iron Maiden songs, like the longer songs where they have these instrumental sections, sometimes in the beginning of the song where Steve Harris plays his bass line and then they add in these harmonized guitars and something like that. They do this on this track and a couple others where that one sounds like there are bits and pieces of this album where it sounds like exactly like Iron Maiden, like those instrumental sections, but then there are other parts where, like track 7, Die by the Blade, which reminded me more of the band like Dokken with those like George Lynch style the guitar riffs, and also that like later day Striper. So it's kind of that, it's like a mix of Iron Maiden and Dokken, Striper, like that type of sound. So it's heavy metal. You like classic heavy metal, check it out. I like this one. It was just a fun album. I think they're not really too serious. Just something that was pretty enjoyable. That's all. Check out last week's episode, new metal releases of January 17th, 2025. Thanks for watching. Give the video a like. It helps me with the YouTube algorithm. Please subscribe if you're not already. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and more. And I will see you in the next one.